Hey there, fellow travelers, and welcome back to the Traveling Cheesehead Podcast, where history, food, and quirky road trip stops meet all across the Midwest. Now, the Midwest is often called America's heartland, but it was also the front line of another battle, one for freedom. Before the Civil War, thousands of enslaved men and women risked their lives to escape bondage, traveling northward on what became known as the Underground Railroad. And while there weren't literal trains or tracks, there were safe houses, secret rooms, and brave people, both black and white, men and women, who worked together to help freedom seekers find their way north. Today, many of those places still stand here in the Midwest. You can walk their floors, hear their stories, and connect with a piece of history that is as humbling as it is inspiring. So let's travel together for a little bit here and explore Midwest Underground Railroad landmarks tied to the freedom seekers. First up is Levi and Catherine Coffin House in Fountain City, Indiana. If you visit just one Underground Railroad site in the Midwest, make it the Coffin House. Levi and Catherine Coffin were Quakers who became known as the President and First Lady of the Underground Railroad. Their home in Fountain City, Indiana, sheltered more than 1,000 freedom seekers between 1826 and 1847. The house looks like a regular two-story brick home from the outside, but inside you'll find hidden rooms and cleverly designed storage areas that kept people safe during searches. Walking through today, you can still sense the courage it took for both those fleeing slavery and those offering shelter under the threat of fines, violence, or worse. Now, this home is now a National Historic Landmark, open for tours that vividly bring its stories to life. Next, we step over to Ripley, Ohio for the John Rankin House. High on a hill overlooking the Ohio River sits the John Rankin House. Reverend Rankin, a Presbyterian minister, and his family turned their home into one of the most active Underground Railroad stations in the country. Freedom seekers would cross the dangerous Ohio River, often by night, and look for a single candle burning in the Rankin's window. That light was their beacon of safety. From here, many were guided further north towards freedom. Now, the house is modest, but the view from the hilltop is breathtaking and haunting when you think about the desperate journeys made across that river. Now, here's a little quirky detail for you. Harriet Beecher Stowe visited Ripley, and Rankin's stories inspired parts of her book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Here's one that I know very well, the Milton House in Milton, Wisconsin. One of the most remarkable and best preserved Underground Railroad stops in the Midwest is the Milton House of Milton, Wisconsin. Built in 1844 by Joseph Goodrich, a businessman and abolitionist, the Milton House was a hexagonal stagecoach inn made of poured gout concrete, a building method rare for the time, but what makes it extraordinary is what lies beneath. The inn's basement connected to a secret tunnel that led to a small cabin across the property. Freedom seekers could be hidden in the cabin, then guided through the tunnel to shelter inside the inn. From there, they continued their journey north, often heading toward Lake Michigan and ultimately Canada. Today, the Milton House is a National Historic Landmark treasure and the only Underground Railroad site in Wisconsin open to the public. Guided tours take you right through that tunnel. Walking through it, you can't help but imagine the footsteps of those who moved quietly through the dark, trusting strangers with their very lives. Plan to join a tour. They do an incredible job of blending local history, architecture, and personal stories of the abolitionist movement here in Wisconsin. Next up, Lawrence, Kansas, the Langston Hughes family home. Kansas was a hotbed of conflict in the years before the Civil War. Bleeding Kansas wasn't just a phrase, it was a reality. In Lawrence, the family of poet Langston Hughes, his maternal grandparents, were deeply involved in the abolitionist movement. While the home isn't always open as a traditional museum, the city of Lawrence itself is rich in Underground Railroad history. Abolitionist strongholds here fought not only just to keep Kansas a free state, but also to provide shelter and to aid freedom seekers moving northward. Pair a stop here with a visit to the Watkins Museum of History, which has exhibits on Kansas's abolitionist roots. Okay, next up, Detroit, Michigan, the Charles Trowbridge House. Detroit was one of the last stops before Canada, where freedom seekers could finally be safe from U.S. laws like the Fugitive Slave Act. The Charles Trowbridge House, built in 1826, is Detroit's oldest known building and a confirmed stop on the Underground Railroad. Detroit itself was a hub. Estimates suggest tens of thousands passed through the city, often crossing the Detroit River into Windsor, Ontario. Now, the house has been preserved as part of Detroit's deep history, and the city offers multiple tours that trace this path to freedom. Walk the International Underground Railroad Memorial at the riverfront. It features statues of freedom seekers looking toward Canada, paired with a matching monument across the river in Windsor. Okay, Mayhew Cabin, Nebraska City. Here we come, Nebraska. The westernmost Underground Railroad site still standing is the Mayhew Cabin, also known as John Brown's Cave. Built in the 1850s, the cabin served as both a home and a hiding place, with a tunnel leading from the basement to a nearby ravine for quick escapes. Freedom seekers traveling west used it as a safe stop, and it's only officially recognized Underground Railroad, and it is the only officially recognized Underground Railroad site in Nebraska. Today, the site includes the cabin, the cave, and a small museum telling the story of Nebraska's role in the railroad. Now to Racine, Wisconsin, Joshua Glover's escape. Not every story comes with a landmark home, but some moments are so powerful they echo across history. One of them is the story of Joshua Glover. In 1852, Glover escaped slavery in Missouri and fled to Racine, Wisconsin. When slave catchers tracked him down 2 years later, they locked him in a Milwaukee jail. But the people of Wisconsin, they had other plans. Hundreds of citizens stormed the jail and freed him. Glover was spirited along the Underground Railroad to Canada, where he lived free for the rest of his life. Today, markers in Racine and Milwaukee commemorate his story, and it remains one of the most dramatic acts of defiance in the Midwest abolitionist history. Now, other Midwest stops that are worth the detour, because I only touched on just a few. Western Illinois, towns like Quincy and Galesburg were hubs for abolitionist activity. In Iowa, the Jordan House in West Des Moines was a beautifully preserved stop with rich and interpretive programs. Ohio, Oberlin College played a central role with students and faculty actively participating in the railroad. So why do all of these sites matter? It's one thing to read about the Underground Railroad in textbooks. It's another to stand in the houses, walk the tunnels, and look out over the rivers where these freedom seekers once passed. And if you noticed, I said freedom seekers. They are the former enslaved. They were not wanting to be slaves, and they were definitely seeking their freedom. These sites remind us of the courage of those who risked everything for that freedom, and the compassion of those who risked fines, imprisonment, or worse to help them. They are testaments to resilience, hope, and the power of an ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Standing in these places, the Coffin House, Rankin House, Milton House, or even the riverbanks of Detroit, you feel something so much deeper than just history. You feel the weight of courage. The Underground Railroad wasn't a railroad at all. It was a network of people who risked everything for the belief that our freedoms mattered, that all freedoms mattered. This wasn't an easy history. It was dangerous. It was defiant. It was messy. But it was also brave, and it was, well, it changed the course of our nation. Freedom seekers traveled by night, guided by the stars, foraged for food to eat to give them the strength to carry on, whispers and the kindness of strangers. Every step was a gamble, and yet they kept going. And here's why this matters today. Remembering the Underground Railroad isn't just about honoring the past. It's about reminding ourselves what ordinary people can do when faced with injustice. Teachers, preachers, innkeepers, farmers, these were not famous people, but they made history by acting with courage and conviction. These sites, and many more tucked away in small towns, are living reminders that freedom has always come at some kind of a cost. They challenge us to ask, what risks would I take for justice? What legacy am I leaving behind? So here's my invitation to you. Start your own journey. Visit one of these places. Walk through a hidden tunnel, climb a hill overlooking the Ohio River, or stand in front of a marker where a life-changing rescue happened. Read the plaques, listen to the guides, and let the stories sink in. History isn't just in books. It's right here in our backyards, waiting for us to learn, to remember, and to carry forward. This was one of the most important chapters in our Midwest history, and it deserves to be remembered. So start your journey. Keep asking questions and keep looking deeper, because the more you know, the more connected you feel. And of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You never know what you'll find just down the road.